So this is going to be a 1-star review for Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. It's such a shame that this is a 1-star because it's pretty. I mean, I like the gilding of it and all that. I want to start off by prefacing that it is, if you love this book, my opinion is not a reflection on you, nor is it a reflection on Alexandra Bracken. I want to also say that if you already like Alexandra Bracken's work, then you will probably still like this book. It just wasn't for me. It didn't hit well, and I had a lot of problems with it, both writing-wise, character choice-wise, and plot-wise, that it just did not hit for me. So I want to start off with the writing. I could not get into this book. I felt that the descriptions of everything was very lackluster. I felt that shortcuts were made when you could have potentially made this book very much better. So one of the things that I kind of hated is that when the characters would start speaking a story, it would fade to black, so we never really got the story that they were saying. And I know that the King Arthur story and myth is something that a lot of people kind of know, but I think that the book had potential to be a storytelling book, and I think it would have been perfectly okay for the characters to say the story as stuff was happening, especially in the prologue. I also feel like in times where she was giving an accurate description of stuff that was going on, she did it at a hindrance to the action that was happening. So when we first get into Avalon, which is just one example that sticks out to me the most, we basically get a whole page of description in between someone seeing it and then reacting to it. And I think that if we had seen it and got the reaction and then got the description, it would have flowed a lot better. I also wasn't fully enjoying the verbs and the description. Like, I felt like Alexandra Bracken picked bad words a lot of the time. So 2 examples that stick out to me very clearly is that she took a drag of her instant coffee, which when you think of a drag, you think like a vape pen or like cigarettes and stuff like that. And even though it might technically be a correct word for here, it didn't work for me. Another one was one of the knights is talking to her on horseback and they're like tied up or whatever, or being main character Tamsin is on the back of a horse behind a knight that is taking her, and the knight falls back into silence while kicking her horse forward to move up in line. And I was just like, that contradicts itself, because fall back is a horse term for moving to the end of the line. So I think we should have used something else to convey that she remained silent at the question, kicking her horse forward in an attempt to avoid it. I don't know. So I just felt like every now and then there were just things that took me out of the story, either by word choice or how it was organized. And then also by character choices. So one of the things that really annoyed me is that we are supposed to believe that Tamsin is smart, right? So she was the one, supposedly, who figured out where the dagger in the beginning of the prologue was. She was the one who figures all these things out, and she has perfect recall. Yet, she never makes an active decision. She's always very reactive. She lets other people do things for her, and she makes the dumbest decisions. So one of them, so there are multiple dumb decisions. One of them, I'll throw out 2 examples here. And I don't blame her entirely for this first one, because I think the other smart character, Nash, should have also done this. But we know that Tamsin's brother, Cable, is a werewolf, right? Basically, he's cursed, and it's not ever said to be a werewolf, but it's essentially being a werewolf, and he has this curse that just happens whenever he gets frustrated. And even though it is said in the book that he has not lost control over it in a while, it is also said that he has been having more, he's been fighting against it more often. So I think if we actually had a smart character, especially with the magic system travel portal thing that we have going on here, that we would have found a safe place for him to werewolf out should he lose control, instead of taking him to a flat in New York City or wherever we are, Boston. Instead of taking him to the first floor flat that you live at in Boston, in the middle of the city, where things can go wrong and did go wrong. And I understand that we wanted to have our characters fight because he lost control and hurt her, Tamsin, but you could have still accomplished that without it being stupid. Especially for how they imply that these characters are smart and well thought out. Another thing that is stupid, which goes against two things. So one thing is that Tamsin, despite having perfect recall, is immortal. She has no magic. She cannot see the magic weave in the world. You know, her brother can see the magic weave. Nash could see the magic weave. Everyone that she knows can see the magic weave. She cannot. So I was hoping that we would get a story where a mortal person, I was hoping that her being human without this would play a part into the story. But we immediately get rid of that whole aspect by having Tamsin put basilisk venom in her eyes, which could blind her or kill her should she not have taken proper precautions. And she didn't, despite there being the ability to have precautions there. So she does this in a tent when she's about to go to Avalon, or when she's like, she does this in a tent by herself in the middle of like nowhere. And granted, the other dude, what is his name? Imris. The romantic interest, Imris, is like right next to her tenting up too. And he's like little rich boy, you know, can do magic stuff. And it would have been a great character moment for them, for her to suck up her pride and just be like, hey, I'm going to do something stupid. Can you watch me and make sure I don't die? Instead of doing something stupid on her own and totally would have died had Imris not been right there to hear her dying and then go save her. Another thing is that their enemies or nemesis thing does not make any sense. It's literally, oh, he's cool rich boy and I'm poor girl, therefore I must hate him. And like the whole thing where we first meet him also immediately tells you that he's not as bad as Tamsin thinks that he is. So even though they immediately start bickering and fighting in the room of a very powerful sorceress who would not simply let the control of her room fall through her fingers 3 times or however many times they switch conversations to yell at each other instead of talk about the thing that was happening. Immediately after that, he like helps a servant pick up something that was dropped. And we see it, which we should not have seen if we wanted to think that he was a bad guy. Also, I think happenstance putting them together and both of them needing to accomplish. So they're going after this ring, right? And Tamsin wants it to cure her brother. And Imris wants it to prove that he can do things without his dad. And they both need to take it to different people. So I think the premise of them joining up is stupid. I think it very much should have been, like if I were an editor telling her to fix her book, I think it should have very much been like, hey, Tamsin figures out this thing and figures out where it's supposed to be. So Tamsin is the one who puts the group together, and she knows that Emrys already found this object that lets them travel to Avalon. So she had to suck up her pride and ask him, or something along those lines. Because it's very much so. Another thing about this book is that it wants you to think that this is the perfect group of 4. So it's a group of 4 people, and they're going on this adventure to do the thing, but they all want the thing. They all want the ring for some other reason. So even if they all worked together properly, which they don't, at the end of the day, it would have been, okay, so who gets the ring? Instead of all of them working together towards a common goal with a common ending, they're all working together for a common goal with a different ending. So, which would be, you know, interesting to be like hesitant trust in this person because we know that they're going to betray us in the end. But it's not done well. Also, one of the things that annoyed me is like these characters would get into fights and they would get into problems and we couldn't sit in the problem. We solved it immediately 2 pages later. So one of the examples early on is that Cable is mad because he werewolfed out and hurt Tamsin, right? And Tamsin is like, no, my guy, it's totally fine. It's fine. Like, you didn't hurt me that much. It's just a scar on my shoulder. But he's like, no, I'm too dangerous. I have to leave. Also, this whole thing takes place in a week. The whole book takes place in a week. You would think that it would take place longer. Anyway. So he leaves for a day and a half and they reunite to find that Cable has been captured by the other Hollowers that are just dicks for no reason. I don't remember why they're going after Tamsin or care about what she's doing. But they care about what she's doing, so they kidnapped Cable, and Cable immediately escapes when they get to the same place that Tamsin and Emrys are currently at. And Cable escapes and meets up with them and is just like, hey, also I brought Neve. Like, where did she come from? Where did she go? And then while they are hiding out in a barn, hiding from the people that are looking for them at this open area, Tamsin is like, Cable, can I speak to you outside? And they immediately forgive each other outside of their hiding place where people are actively looking for them like they're supposed to be smart. It pissed me off. So of course they immediately got found and they immediately got captured and then they all go to Avalon. So I think the entire first slow-ish bit of the book, like, I don't think Bracken did a good job with it. I think she wanted to get to Avalon, but she couldn't immediately get there. So she rushed to get there to a detriment. And then when we got to Avalon, her descriptions did get better, but the reasons why things were happening didn't make much sense. And like, don't tell me that I just didn't get it, because it didn't make sense. Like, it happened over the course of 2 years and no one knows why, and it just all of a sudden. Also, we want to have a group thing, but we can't ever have a group thing. So like, one thing that would have been really cool is that there are these 9 sorceresses. I can't say my S's. So there were these 9 sorceresses in Avalon, right? We never really get all of them interacting with each other, or even like a couple of them interacting with each other at the same time. Like, at most, we get white-haired, red herring, nurse, and flea interacting at the same time with the knight, not the knight, with the other sorceress with the bee name, not the knight, but the sorceress with the bee name. At most, that's all we get. And we know that Vivian is like dead or whatever, but we don't get any information. So we don't like have this sense of camaraderie between these women that are supposedly been together for hundreds of years working with each other. We don't have that sense of camaraderie. And then we also don't have any, like, of our main 4 of the group that came in, we don't have any like bonding with them. So one thing that made me mad is that we never really got all 4 together at the same time. And it really wasn't pointed out until the end when it became like a problem. But it was never, and also like we never got any of the other cast acting with someone else that wasn't Tamsin. So it was always Imrys and Tamsin, or Neve and Tamsin, or Cable and Tamsin. But it was never Imrys and Neve, or Imrys and Cable, or Cable and Neve, even though Cable was the one that brought Neve on. So you would think that you would see them interacting with each other. But instead, Imrys is exploring the castle all by himself. Cable is getting brainwashed and learning night things. And Neve is head in a book at the library. And Tamsin is doing nothing. Like, she's not talking to people, she's not investigating the grounds, she's not reading, she's not also becoming a knight, she's doing nothing until Imrys comes up to her and goes, I found thing, come with me. And then we have this information keep away for like most of the book, where the characters are thinking one thing only to immediately be told, oh no, you're wrong. Not even immediately be told. We're doing this information keep away because no one has done anything to earn trust, nor tried to be like, you have to earn my trust for you to know any of these stories. So they get all of these conclusions wrong. And it's not like the reader could be like, oh no, that's obviously wrong. Except for you looking that you're in the middle of the book and being like, this can't be right because this sounds stupid. Like, there are some nuggets that you could depict. So like, I picked up on Cable being brainwashed by the old knight, but that's because Cable said something that was so out of character about being against sorceresses, so not liking Neve, even though he was the one who brought her into the group. So it made no sense. And I was like, that's wrong. That's wrong. And then also, like, the old knight man being like, yes, Tamsin can go on this journey for me. I was like, that's fucking wrong. That's wrong. So, like, there are hints for you to figure out what's going to happen. And I thought that she had some hints that were also going to play out more. So one of the things that happens is that they need this dagger for this ritual, right? Well, the first thing that they did in the prologue was find a dagger. So I'm thinking, oh, they gotta go back to Nash's body and find the dagger that he stole because they don't know where it is. No, that's not it. We didn't set that up for anything. The dagger is at the lake where Vivian has become a revenant because we think that she's evil, but really she was also playing information keep away. And if any of these characters actually talked to each other or actually trusted anyone, then the thing that happens at the end would not have happened. The ending was quite good. I enjoyed the ending. But I like that type of ending. But I don't think that the ending is worth it for the entire slog that was the 400 pages before it in a 428-page book. Or, no, it's almost 500 pages, isn't it? Whoops, I put this in upside down. It's a 467-page book. Page 400 was important because we figured out that Tamsin was lying to the reader the entire time. Because we are here thinking that Tamsin doesn't know why that she's an orphan, but then she tells Imrys that she's an orphan because her parents gambled her away to Nash. Also, I don't think Alexandra Bracken knows how abandonment issues work, or it's at least not how, in my opinion, how I've seen abandonment issues work, where if someone abandons you, the last thing that you want to do is go look for them and have them tell, like, a fantasy, maybe, but reality, you would know that when you find the person that abandoned you and they're still alive, they probably abandoned you on purpose. You are not hoping to go find them alive and say it was a mistake abandoning you and that I did not mean to. Also, one thing that I think, so I don't think Cable did anything for the story, at least on this first book, and we judge books by themselves. So Cable was all set up for something else. And I think what would have been really cool is if we had not had a Chosen One story, because it ends up being a Chosen One story, because there's this whole thing about like a prophecy with someone that has silver bones, and wouldn't you know it, Tamsin has silver bones. But I can't tell if she already knew that she had silver bones or if it was her first time discovering that her bones were silver when we, the reader, find out what we already could have guessed knowing fantasy tropes. So in my, it read as if she already knew that she was silver boned, because the thing that she wanted to keep secret from everyone after this incident was that she kissed Emrys. Stupid. So I think it would have been really cool if she had known the entire time, and we as the reader had known the entire time, and if she had been like, oh fuck, I'm the person in the prophecy that's gonna kill Avalon the entire time. Because then we could have had a Cursed One story instead of a Chosen One story. And even though the ending implies that it's gonna become a Cursed One story, execution was not there to start with. And we also could have had a normal girl story. But we also killed the normal girl story like 100 pages in. Anyway, is that everything that I hated? I don't think character interactions were good. So like one thing in the prologue, even though I read the synopsis beforehand, I didn't like ingest it. So when we were in the prologue and Nash and Emrys and Tamsin were all, not Emrys. So when we were in the prologue and Nash, Tamsin, and Cable were going through caves, I didn't read it as Nash being the father figure. I read it as they were all friends and 15-year-olds. Not two little babies and a father figure that was not wanting to be a father figure. So I also don't think relationships were handled really well here. I don't think the magic was explained very well, and the magic system was stupid. The magic system. So the magic system was like in our world or what have you. It was all written down spells, right? But in Avalon, the sorceresses used also not written down spells. So we were like, it was very much D&D magic with like learned magic and weave magic and divine magic, which I understood because I played D&D, and this was a failed D&D novel. But I don't think anyone else would understand without that form of knowledge of how magic is in D&D would have came to this book and been like, yes, that's how it works. Because also, it's not how it fucking works. Because Neve is over here being like, I'm gonna cast a sunshine spell, but she can't finish it halfway through it, so it just comes even more powerful. For some reason. Like, that could be weave magic, wild magic stuff, and like druid stuff, but she started it out as a wizard spell. So, and then all the sorceresses have divine magic, or do they have learned magic, or do they have nature magic? It's just magic, and it's not defined well. So, a lot of things pissed me off about the book. I did like the ending, but it is not worth it, and it is 1 star. I think that if you already like Alexandra Bracken's work, that you will probably like this. It is my first book of her. I don't think that I will be picking up any other books from her. And I will not be continuing the series. Did you read this book? Do you like any of Alexandra Bracken's other works? Do you know any other Arthurian legend books that are maybe good? Anyway, that's all. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And remember, we are all in progress.
Oh, look, it's a rabbit. Oh, is that a rabbit?